And it's not a set. It's not a comedy. It's just fun. Get out of your headspace. It's just fun. It's silly. It's warm. And it's 100% genuine. How's the move? I know like last time you and I texted, you said you were driving. I heard through the grapevine you recently moved. I hope everything's good.
Yeah, how do you like Minneapolis?
Well, I like living up here, except in Minnesota.
Do you live in Minneapolis?
I actually live in St. Paul.
So yes.
I've been up there. That's fun. That's nice. Nice little area.
Yeah.
I like St. Paul.
Yeah. But I'm finding out that I may have allergies.
to St. Paul?
Kind of kicking my butt. Well, because in Minnesota, there's a lot of there's a lot of like parks.
There's a lot of shit blowing around.
Trees and flowers and like.
I think I've went in the winter.
Vegetation out here, a lot of pollinators,
a lot
and
of
things
nature.
Like that. So, yeah, in which in South Dakota, it's not nearly as much going on.
No,
as far as that goes, you got farmland and that's about it. But
you have a nice bus station. That's all I know.
A nice bus station.
Nice bus station, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, some are better than others when it comes to the bus stations. I've been to a few shady ones in my time.
Omaha's one is really bad. I've been there a lot. It's just a step away from breaking down. And this is a weird way of starting the podcast, but yeah, this is Running the Light. I'm Jeremy Plum, and with me is Haley Raven. And on the phone, all the way from Minneapolis, apparently, is Dan Bublitz, host of The Art of Bombing, and a great comedian.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate you having me. However, I'm in St. Paul. I just told you that.
Yes.
We're gonna continue to call that Minneapolis.
Minneapolis is the state, right?
That's okay.
No, Minnesota's the state.
Much the same. I've just been referring to it now. I'm just like, I live in the cities. And it was funny. I said that to somebody, and they're like, cities. I was like, the Twin Cities? And they're like, oh, okay. Now I get it.
So how's your week been going, Haley?
Oh, my week has been fine. It's just the same thing on repeat until I get out of school, which will be soon. But a few more weeks of Groundhog Day, and then I can finally move on with my life and not have a job that I don't like.
All right. That's kind of fun. Dan, how's your week been going? Anything fun, interesting this week?
You doing any shows in the city?
Seen any shows?
I haven't, not really, not this week. I spent the weekend because I bought a house too up in the cities. That's the other thing.
Oh yeah, so, congrats!
I'm a homeowner, so I have like homeowner responsibilities. So I did some painting, I guess. My front windows needed to be repainted, so
you're an adult TM.
I did that.
It's frightening.
Yeah, that's been about the extent of my week, I guess. I went and watched a show.
What did you watch?
I guess that was. I just went and watched a showcase. A friend of mine, Andy Matfield, he's another comic. He puts on a monthly showcase, and a mutual friend of ours that was at Snow Jam, Willie Mack.
Yeah,
came to Minneapolis to hang out. So.
How's he doing?
Willie,
Willie, but also the host, who's Andy.
Oh, okay. I was like, yeah, you met Willie? Okay, you're talking about Andy.
Oh, Snow Jam. Why was I thinking? Yes, but yes, I was thinking a different festival for some reason.
Yeah. Well, probably because we met for the Paul Bunyan Comedy Festival.
Yes, that's why I said I met at the bus station with you. We drove for, if I included the bus, I drove for like 18 hours.
Yes, which was insane.
Yeah, listened to a lot of Joe Rogan. We got pulled over. It was a good time.
Oh yeah, fun times. Road trips are always fun like that. But Andy's doing great. He just bought a house as well. So
nice. This week's been kind of fun for me. I was on a show on Friday. Haley was on it too. It was a punk rock show. I think it was literally called Punk Rock with emphasis on pun or something like that.
Yeah.
Pun
rock.
Yes. I knew it was a pun of something and I couldn't remember where it was, but it's fun. It was. I loved that show just because I loved the music.
It was good music too.
Hell yeah. And like the crowd was super into it. It was just a fun show.
I love Barley Street.
Oh, it's such a good place to just, be loud. And that's what that show was just loud and fun.
So was it just a punk show, like music punk show?
And comedy.
Okay. So it was a comedy and punk show. Oh, is that Tony's show?
Yeah, it is Tony's show, and it's super fucking cool, man. I loved it. Punk rock was in the middle and the end, and then comedy started and went throughout. And I think everyone there who was a comic had a great set. It was just a fun time.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's always fun.
All right. Well, I'm going to kind of take the reins for a second because, Dan, I wanted to do this because your podcast was one of the first ones I did. And it was the first one I had fun on. And it's cute because now I get to interview
awesome.
you.
Oh, the tables are turned.
A little comedy circle of life. What was the name of the album that you chose? That was Robin Williams' Reality. What a Concept. Is that right?
That is correct.
I listened to that earlier today. I have a job where I just go out and I walk around. I'm walking the whole time I'm working, and so I just listen to podcasts or albums or stuff. So I listened to the whole thing.
Walk dogs for a living?
No, I almost took a job walking dogs, and I was like, nah, this is too much responsibility. I don't want to do that.
Something about walking dogs always felt sketchy.
Nervous. It gives me anxiety because I love my dog and I don't trust it. It's not that I'm irresponsible. I am just so horribly paranoid that something would happen for any reason. And I don't know.
I wouldn't trust someone else with my dog if I'm not there. I don't know why. It's again paranoia. I wouldn't trust anyone with a dog that's not mine.
I trust two of my family members and then just nobody. I'd take him with me.
Yeah, that's kind of the same how I feel. Well, I guess that's one of it. Going back to exciting stuff. I got a new puppy. That was
oh yeah, I've seen pictures of the little sweet baby.
Yeah, he is.
What's his name?
Does he pee in your house?
His name is Tello.
Oh, that's so cute.
Short for Donatello, because I'm an 80s baby.
They're so tiny. Do you have to get those puppy pads?
Yeah, we have.
It's just like a big diaper that you spread out on your floor for tiny dogs.
We got pads, like training pads, but he's been pretty good about going outside.
Oh, that's good.
Helps out the dog. So,
how old is Tello?
Tello is 8 weeks.
Oh, so why?
What's that?
I was gonna say, why did you pick this album?
Why did I pick this album?
Yes.
Honestly, I picked it just because. Part of the reason I picked it is because when you asked for an album, I was driving, and I was like, "Oh, I have a picture of that album, so that'll work." I mean, that was one of the reasons, so that I didn't have to leave you hanging and waiting for a couple of days to get back to you, and partly because honestly, I hadn't listened either. I mean, I had it ready to go, sitting on my record player. But one thing I've been doing,
you have this on vinyl.
I have this on vinyl, yes.
Oh, that's cool.
And so when I've been doing, I'm not really I like music, like most people do. But I'm not a big, go buy vinyls for music and stuff. But I do like kind of collecting comedy albums.
It's great. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes when I'm out and about, thrifting or at rummage sales or whatever, and I find comedy albums, I'll pick them up. And I think I was doing something, and I think it was in Rapid City actually where I got this one. But I was just at this record store, and they had some comedy albums, and I picked it up. And I hadn't had a chance to listen to it, so I thought, well, this is a good reason to listen to it.
Nice. Whenever I'm bored.
So then you did listen to it?
I did. Oh yeah, I did. I actually just listened to it today.
Yeah. Okay. So we both just listened to it, so it's fresh in our minds.
I finished it an hour ago.
I had to listen to it in increments. I had to take breaks because I think, Jeremy, you said this last week. It was you or it was one of my other friends. You really like Robin Williams movies, but not really his stand-up.
I don't this is my favorite. I've heard Weapon of Self-Destruction, I think was 2008. I've heard Live at the Met. I own that one on cassette. And that's fun to listen to. Not a huge fan. And then I heard this one, and this one's kind of my favorite, but I don't like his stand-up as much. I think because we're listening to it, and I'm not there, and I feel like I'm missing it. I feel like the joke isn't his words sometimes, it's him.
Yeah, Dan, what do you think about it? Like, do you think that Robin Williams is one of those people it's better if you're watching him?
I think so. I think you have to be there to watch. I don't think his humor completely transcends through audio alone, because he was a very active performer. You know, like he was very high energy.
A lot of stage presence and energy.
There's a lot of energy there. He probably, when he was doing his impressions, he was also, when he was doing the voices and stuff, he was probably like making faces to go with it. Things like that. So there's a lot of visual cues, I think, that are probably there that you don't necessarily get on an audio recording.
Yeah, because the audience is just laughing their ass off.
Or heckling and screaming in the back, which was fucking annoying. But I just scounged through YouTube because I was trying to see, like, maybe there's some like weird footage of it to see, just because I wanted to see some of it. And I could get clips and snippets of it. And it is almost all like he'll put a coat on, he'll have glasses, he'll hunch. It is almost all physical. And I've been thinking about for the last week or so, because of a scheduling thing, why I don't like Robin Williams' stand-up. And I think it's because you've probably done this, Haley and Dan. You get this thing in your head where you sometimes analyze the set. You sometimes look at it as like why it's funny because you're writing jokes, or at least I do. I sometimes get into my headspace. Oh yeah,
absolutely. You try to figure out why people are laughing at something. I figured that I do that all the time. Especially when I'm watching comedy.
Oh, it's the worst. It's because you don't get to enjoy it, and I think the joy of this is just stepping back, and it's just that one, he's creating like a little play, like the little kid kindergarten thing is just a fun little segment of a play, and it's not a set, it's not a comedy, it's just fun. Get out of your headspace. It's just fun. It's silly. It's warm. And it's 100% genuine. None of it feels like a bit. None of it feels none of it feels rehearsed, because it wasn't. And it's just warm. And I think if you stop looking at it as a comedy set and looking at it as just like a one-man play, and so you might know a little bit about that, Dan, it just turns into its own little thing.
He had he was talking about like some, I don't know a better word for it, just like darker stuff, but he was being so cutesy and fun and sweet about it. And I can't think of any, like the Reverend one. I like that. I laughed out loud at that. Yeah. I enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Thank you. Praise Jessel that we're all here together. Welcome to Reverend Ernest Angry's Disco Temple of Comedy. We're all here tonight because we believe that the spirit of comedy can help us. I know it can. Now, dear child, you've come so close because you want to be healed, don't you? Give me your hand, and I know you can walk without that chair. You can do it. Give me your hand. Wait, but first we touch you first with the magic words of comedy. Take my wife, please. Come on up. She did it.
There's almost no form. And that's what I love. Like, everyone's heard the story, like Robin Williams would sometimes accidentally steal jokes because he was so off the cuff. He'd accidentally use a joke of someone's he heard like the night before. But like, listen to this, it's just like everything is in the moment. He has maybe giant swatches of ideas and then just goes. And it's, like the Reverend one is what I thought of that, is like, it just goes, and it would be a closer in an actual set. This is the middle of a set. And it's weird.
Absolutely.
It's weird pacing, but
exactly. And that's what, and that's exactly how it comes off. You thought it would, you feel like it's a closer, but it's in the middle of the show. But I also think with him too, he was a character. You know what I mean? Like, he's Robin Williams, but that in itself was like a character. Like, he was always on. Like, and that kind of energy. I don't know. You're right, where it doesn't feel like stand-up. It just feels like somebody just doing more like improv. It feels like a one-man improv show is what it really feels like.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It feels like a one-man improv show. But like, it feels like what someone thinks an improv show is sometimes, because it's not like building up to anything. It's just throwing a bunch of really interesting pieces together and then seeing how it rolls. And that's That's Robin, I think. It's just setting things up and
Yeah.
seeing how it goes and always committing. He's never stopped an idea in his entire set, except for I'm not doing Mork and Mindy shit, because this was right after season 1 of Mork and Mindy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He definitely stays committed to a bit when he does it. I mean, and that's, I think, and you have to, when you're doing comedy, if you don't commit to the bit, people are going to see through it and they're not going to find it as funny. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a joke that you're trying to do, if you don't believe in it, the audience isn't either. So you have to commit and you have to go all the way with it. And that's, something that I still ain't necessarily as good at as I'd like to be. It's one of them things that you learn over time, I think. But the other thing with him too, like, because he's so like all over the place and like really talks really fast, his rhythm and timing and this and that, it's almost hard to listen to just the audio alone.
Yeah,
like,
I felt that way
you
too.
could see what's going on because he's just like 100 miles an hour. And it's like,
It
geez,
stresses me out. It was stressing me out, and I had to take a break from it.
Yeah, it's almost like either you need to have like ADD to like keep up or be on coke. Which he probably was.
It was Mork and Mindy era. Yeah, he was. What bugged me, I think, the most, especially in the beginning, was I've talked to people, and before setting up the show, one thing comics would say is looking back in the past has a problem of comedy doesn't age. Topics don't age. Sometimes comedy is seeped in the culture, and it's just an impenetrable wall to listen to. And the first 8 minutes of this is about some Russian Olympic thing that is conveyed mostly in body language, and I understand none of it because I don't know the history. I don't know what he's doing. It just comes off as 8 minutes of noise for a while.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
cute. It's fun, but fuck if I get it.
You need that visual element to it.
And every visual element on YouTube is just R.I.P. Robin Williams and a bunch of snippets of interviews with him and Carson. It's like, this means nothing to me right now.
Well, and that's one of the things too that goes back to, that's like with topical humor. That's why, topical humor only works for a little bit. Eventually, whatever that, what they're talking about is in the past. And as generations come up, they don't necessarily get it, and if you make a reference and your audience doesn't get it, they're not going to get your joke or whatever. And it's kind of the same thing with old comedy like that. There's certain things that they talked about in their stand-up that just aren't going to go over people's heads because you don't know the history. One thing I will say that's it's kind of amazing for like with George Carlin, I listened to something that he did like in the late 80s now, and it's still like transcended. Like all the social issues he was talking about still applied today, and if not even more. It was just crazy.
What I'm hearing is we have not made progress as a species.
We haven't really. I mean, look around our country right now. We've got people hating people and all this different, we got a hate monger for a president, and we got we're killing people at the border, and, people starving. We've got no rights for, people, and it's ridiculous.
I think
so. Yeah, society is getting worse.
I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference between. I'm not great with words, so bear with me. Talking about an instance of like X person did Y thing and pointing that out, and more of like talking about the event or what the event is. I was because I was thinking about Robin Williams. I was looking up stuff on YouTube. I found his 1994 performance at the Oscars performing Blame Canada.
Don't blame yourself for your son Stan. He saw the darn cartoon and now he's off to join the clan. And my boy Eric once had my picture on his shelf, but now when he sees me he tells me to myself. Blame Canada, blame Canada, because when Canada is gone there'll be no north to lead the earth. Blame Canada, blame Canada. They're not even a real country anyway.
And that's just about censorship. It's about censorship of the 90s and about censorship of South Park. If they just did that, it would be very dated. But they talked about the giant swath of, not political correctness, censorship. And I think that holds longer than just talking about like a specific event. And so that's kind of the fine act you play.
Yeah. I don't know. Humor's weird. Plus comedy's subjective, you know?
It is.
Like that's the other thing, you know, so what certain people like, other people probably won't, you know, and vice versa. You know, and as a comedian, you're not going to be everybody's favorite comedian. You know, there might be one person that thought you were the best comic on the show, but there might be 19 others that thought you were terrible, you know, or vice versa. And it's just something that happens.
Do you ever watch or you're at a show and you actually see it, or you're just listening to comedy and you hear it and you're like, you hear a joke that gets a really big, like, positive reaction, the crowd loves it, and you're like, that's not funny to me for whatever reason, but I can see how other people really like it. Like, you can still acknowledge the humor in it and even like appreciate it as a joke, even if you don't like it.
Yeah, and I can even, you know, as far as like other comedians go, there are comedians that I can appreciate what they're doing,
and that doesn't even mean that they're offensive. It can just be like they're fucking stupid or something, you know, like just they have like dumb humor, and you're like, God, that is so simple and like dumb, you know, and it's so well liked, and it's just so, you know what I mean?
I totally get what you're saying. And this is something for me, like there's, you know, Louis C.K. is a good example of this, where I've never been a big fan of his. You know, like I
remember before I started doing comedy, like when he wasn't, I don't know. I remember him like right before he got huge was when I started to hear,
like during Hilarious, like Hilarious album.
When did that come out?
I was in high school, so I graduated in 2012. So we're looking like early 2010-ish.
I started to hear about him later when I would say like 2011.
Okay.
12 is when I started to hear about him.
I will also just say, just because Margie and Rich had been showing me a sign that I didn't understand, the year is 1999 Oscars, not 1994.
Oh, snap.
Yes. I thought we were talking for 99 minutes and I freaked out. But no, you were saying? I interrupted you.
Well, yeah. So what I was saying is that he's, you know, I've never been that big of a fan of his. I thought his material, you know, some of his stuff is funny, but I get why people thought he was so great. You know, like you could see the stuff that he writes, and like he was a good writer and good at performing his material. But I've never been necessarily been a big fan of his.
There was one thing he said in an interview, and I just think it's a good quote. Like, regardless of who would have fucking said it, I would still like the quote. He just was talking about how he writes. He said every word does something, and that's such a simple statement, but it was like a light bulb moment for me. Like, oh, you know, don't waste any of your words when you're on stage.
Yeah,
it really is.
Also,
but I can also like see like what is it about his humor, like his style, or what is it that you don't enjoy?
I don't know. I think a lot of it is just that a lot of his stuff is just kind of offensive in a sense. I mean, it's well crafted, but I can kind of see through that and see where he basically found a way to do a well crafted joke just to, in a sense, to be offensive.
Yeah. Yes. I can see that. Yeah.
And that's, you know, and while like I appreciate all humor and like as far as like, you know, I get why people laugh at certain things or whatever, and I don't believe in censorship, to each their own, but I'm not big on like super offensive comedy.
When it's like that's just kind of the purpose of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like because then it kind of becomes like shock value. That's, you know, trying to be shock comedy, or you know, that's where they're trying to get the laugh or whatever. I'm not saying that he was ever shock comedy, but I just, you know, it's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about comedy as a performance. I mean, that's what Robin was. A lot of Robin's words maybe were wasted in the sense that they didn't actively contribute to a punchline, but the performance is what matters. And sometimes at least when I get on stage, I sometimes forget about the fact that I'm in a sense, giving a performance. I'm not just reading a bunch of funny words to some people who are drunk.
Oh, absolutely.
I should also use my body language. I think on a podcast like Art of Bombing, we talked about Will Doherty Loves Company. And I said the reason why I thought I bombed was not only because I wasn't funny, but I had a friend take pictures of me and my back was tight and my arms were crossed and my back was right up against the wall. And I was just looking around like a scared small dog. And I'd realize that a lot of comics just go up there and just say their jokes, but we got to also how you present your jokes.
I think I like that quote because I identify with it, or it struck a chord with me because I ramble a lot. If I don't really spend time with what I'm trying to say, I will just waste a lot of time saying shit I don't need to.
Right. And I think wasting time, wasting words, just being wasteful, I think is just.
If you're up there performing, that's different. But if I'm up there like doing new jokes and I don't know them very well and I ramble about details because I'm trying to be accurate about whatever I'm talking about. I talk about like shit that's happened to me or shit I've like just giving details that don't matter or contribute to the joke, just not staying focused on what I'm trying to say and stuff like that. So that quote, it was simple and I was like, oh, duh.
Well, and I totally, and it's true. I mean, it kind of goes with the whole, like, for writing, you want to cut the fluff, cut out the stuff that isn't helping the joke or the story move along. If there's no point in it being in there, you don't need it. Like, it goes back to where you're wasting those words, every word does count.
But then,
because there's several sets where I don't reach the part that I'm trying to reach. I don't get to the meat of my set. It's a 4-minute set and I waste a minute, talking about details that don't matter or getting off track. Like that's, it screws my whole set.
One thing about him is he's not doing a stand-up comedy act. Like that's a lot of comedians are doing an act in the sense where they're doing set up punch tag, like they're working on an act. He was a performer. He was doing a performance.
Okay.
A stand-up performance.
My question for you two would you guys consider yourselves performers? And is there a difference? Do you consider what you guys do performative, or is it just focusing on the words?
Pretty 50-50. It depends on the day or how depressed I'm feeling.
Do you think about how your body moves when you're performing? Like, because
will you repeat that?
Do you think about how your body moves when you're saying a joke? Because I know, like, I have a radio joke, and I really do think about like where my feet are, how my back turns, where my head kind of tilts. But granted, I'm also very anal, and with the OCD, everything's just running a mile a minute. But do you guys think about your body, and Dan, I guess, do you consider yourself a performer when you go on stage?
Well, I'm kind of like sometimes I feel like a performer, sometimes not. I mean, that's what ultimately I am trying to be, is a performer, and not just going up and standing up and doing, jokes, like I still, even though I've been doing comedy for a while, I'm still trying to, learn how to do that consistently. Sometimes I'll go to a show and I'm doing a performance. Mm-hmm. I'm putting everything into it, all my energy. I'm moving around. I'm being in the moment. I'm having a good time. And other times I'm just standing there, just with the mic in my face, not doing nothing but talking into the microphone.
Is there a difference in the show quality? Like, do you feel like there's a difference in the show quality?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can get, and I can feed off your energy. And I don't know, like, I'm trying to get to the point where, like, every show you're going to just be as energetic and, like, in the show as you can, and by that, I mean, having, like, enthusiasm for being there and having the show or whatever. Because when when you're up on stage and your energy, you're giving off this vibe, like, I don't really want to be here because there isn't many people or this situation sucks. The energy can feel it. or the
Mhm.
audience can feel that energy, and then they kind of react to that energy. And it, if your energy is positive, they're gonna react positively. If your energy is negative, they're gonna react negatively.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, and when I say negative, I'm not talking about, there's comics that do dark humor. That's not what I mean. I mean, you're not an audience member, they can still tell if you're enjoying what you're doing. Even
If you want to be there or
how
not.
sad you are. What's that?
Like they can tell if you want to be there or not.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
How do you get into that mindset, Haley? Like how do you get into that? I'm ready to perform. I'm ready to go get on stage energy. If you do?
There's, I don't know. What's that? Dan, same question to you.
For me, how do I get into that? I try to, like I said, I'm not always good at doing it every time. I don't know. I'm really good at getting into my head and overthinking things. And then that's not always a good outcome that comes from it. So, but one thing I try to do is I try to remember that to have fun, even though you're trying to do it professionally and it's a job and there's like certain things that you need to do to be professional and treat it like a profession, you still got to have fun, because if you're not having fun doing this thing that you supposedly love, then what's the point of doing it?
Right.
And so I've been trying to really grasp that idea and keep that in my head and just have fun. I did an open mic a couple weeks ago, and they gave me more time because there was only a few comics that showed up for the open mic, but it was in Rochester, Minnesota at Goody's Comedy Club. And there was like maybe 5, there was like 6 audience members. And I think with comics, there was probably total of 12 people in the room.
Woof.
Because there was only like 5 or 6 comics. But I just decided, I had to remember, I was like, okay, so there's only a few people here. A lot of comics bring that up. They're like, oh, well, this room's empty. And they try to make jokes about it. And they, the elephant in the room or whatever. And I was like, you know what? You just got to go have fun.
Right.
Make the best out of this time that you have up here. And I had a really good set. I was really loose and I just had fun. And even my friend that I went to the open mic with afterwards, he's like, I think that's one of the best sets I've seen you do since you moved up to the cities, because that's where, I haven't known him that long, but he was like, that was like one of your best sets. And it was only for a handful of people. And it's because I was just like, gotta have that energy, how to be enthusiastic and just have fun.
Yeah. I know for me, how I get into that is, and this is going to sound kind of Boy Scouty, is no matter the show, I kind of have to take a minute, check where I am, and also realize that I'm kind of happy and grateful to just get a chance to go up on stage and not think about anything else, but just, I do this because I like making people happy off and on stage. I just want to make sure that I'm making an impact and making people's days a little bit better. And going up on there and just telling a quick joke and doing that is all I ever wanted to do, and remind myself just of that small moment. And then I can go up stage and no matter how many people are there and just have fun. And when I don't think about that, I get in my head, I get depressed, and it just comes off as bleh. Haley?
What do I do? Well, I don't know. I can't always pull. I don't know. There are times where my energy on stage is really low. And if I'm really struggling with depression, which it sounds awkward to say it, but fuck it. Who cares? Like, I was on Fast and Fresh last night, and I just cannot. I'm just having a rough time. And when I feel like that, I just can't get into a rhythm because I just don't feel good. Because every time I go on stage, I want to be a professional and all that, but like there is always a part of it that's genuine energy.
Do you fake it?
I don't know, Jeremy, do you? Can you?
For 5 minutes, yes. But it's not, it's like fake sugar and real sugar,
Okay, well, anyway, I like to perform, and I'm still a young comedian. I don't want to, give myself an excuse or anything, but I'm still learning a lot about comedy. I just think you're always learning in comedy, or, you know, you should always. And I love to perform. I love one piece of advice I've gotten from a couple other comics is just slow down and enjoy your time on stage. Like you just said, have fun, because a lot of times I will rush through my stuff too quickly, not just let it marinate or let the punch sink, or I don't use timing the way I want because I don't want to lose the audience. I'm like, oh, they're laughing. I don't want to lose them. Keep talking. I guess what I do to get excited about going on stage, if I'm feeling I just love comedy so much. And I, like you said, just having fun is a huge part of it. Don't take it too seriously. Like, I just want to be myself. I'm a lot less aggressive on stage if I'm comfortable. If I'm comfortable on stage, I have a great time and my sets typically go pretty well. So I just have to do things that are going to help me feel comfortable, which if you have like depression and anxiety and shit, it's just not always easy to do that. Like there's part of my brain that I don't think part of me thinks that I don't deserve to feel confident and I don't deserve to enjoy anything or feel good about myself.
Yeah.
And so just taking deep breaths and honestly not thinking about myself and just being in the moment and enjoying what I'm doing. Cause like Jeremy said, this is literally all I've ever wanted to really do. I remember lying to adults when I was a kid. They'd be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, I know you don't really believe in me, so I'll just say something to get you off my back. And I'd be like, a teacher. When in real life, I was like, I want to be a comedian. But don't tell people that.
I remember telling 21. I told my mom I want to do comedy. She was freaking out. She's like, don't get a real job first and then do this. And yeah, it's just a weird thing to tell people that you want to start doing this.
Well, it's like I have I have other stuff that I'm interested in. Like I love comedy, but I also I have another job where it's like, well, yay, now I don't have to be like piss poor while I do comedy, and I also like that job. It's not hooking. I still think it's dog walking. Say what it actually is, because if anyone actually listens,
hooking, but it's stripping. I mean,
I am too much of an introvert to be a stripper. I'm not. I have done sets at strip clubs. I've done comedy at strip clubs. I do not have the patience or the customer service skills for that type of work.
Can I ask a question?
I don't.
Can I ask you a question about that gig? Because I've always wanted to do a set of a strip club, because when that show started, it was only on, that show for at the strip club was only on for like a little bit. And I wanted to go for the same reason why I love doing open mics with music.
Oh, you would have just shit. You would have shit. You would have had an anxiety attack.
Yes.
You would have been so upset and not handled it well at all.
Do they pay attention to you? Like the crowd. Do they pay attention to you? Because I feel like
they were confused about why my clothes were not off. They came there for a different reason. They didn't understand why there was a woman talking at them instead of doing booby stuff at them, which those girls were fucking rad. I love strippers.
I love the phrase booby stuff, by the way. It's something about that. It's just the perfect description.
Okay, there, big shooter. Calm down. Wipe this rule off.
I just think of like a giant neon sign that says booby stuff.
Yeah.
And like a little.
We're both just like, eh.
All right. Anyways.
I
don't know about Jeremy talking about booby stuff. It's okay when Haley does it, but I don't know, Dan. What do you think about boobies?
Boobies are great, and I think that's why everybody enjoys them.
I appreciate a good joke and good boobies. All boobies are good boobies. Should we just fill the rest of the time with should we all take turns saying boobies?
Oh, that makes me happy. That's so funny. I like a good joke and I like a good boobie. That's a cup. That's a cup.
God, you sound like a little Futurama character. You sound like.
Did we just go back to high school here now?
We're all like
a child.
I feel like we're a couple of adolescents on the phone.
There's nothing better than like a good just boob joke. There's nothing. It's a fun. Making fun of a word is fun.
You both have nicer boobs than I do. That was a dumb joke that ruined everything. Because they know it's not true. They don't have to see us to know that's not true.
Yeah, that's good point. But my last name is actually Bublitz.
Bublitz.
Is it Bublitz? I didn't want to say that when we met at the festival because I didn't want to be an asshole and like say the wrong name. So I went with Bublitz.
Well, I didn't want to be an asshole and correct you. So I was an asshole and corrected you on what town I lived in.
Oh, Bublitz, like boobs. We were just a conspiracy. I'm sorry, I always say Bublitz. It's just because you're so cute, like little bubble, like little bubbles.
So I've heard it all, but I'm actually Bublitz. That's the name, and that's a great name.
There's not an O in there, but
Bublitz.
So I have a quick question about the album. One thing I noticed is it's just about a lot of the times when he's talking to an audience, especially that one fucking annoying heckler.
Which heckler are you talking about? Are you someone who hates anytime anyone talks during any set?
No, I don't hate it. But when it's over and over again, it's clearly they want the attention. They want to be a part of it. And that's annoying.
Yeah.
During the Reverend, there's one guy in the back, or even during the Shakespeare one when he's
like, this is about me now.
No, it's not. Shush. But what he did is, there's a difference in like different types of heckling, I think. There's the heckler where you address it and you go, fuck off. Everyone, look at this guy. This guy's a bad guy. Everyone laugh at him and you're done. But Robin does it differently. He kind of just points the weirdness of like the heckler or people walking up to him. And it's just about the weird, like this is comedy's weird. You're listening to me talk and you can't talk to me. It's weird. It's not normal. And he addresses it. And I think that's way more fun.
It's all right. You want to kiss me? Yeah. You want to share my diseases? A kiss for you, Matcha. Hey, I want to kiss you too. No. That'll be extra. No. Sit down, son. You're getting overzealous here. The boys is coming out of the closet right here. But that's all right because comedy says better late than never.
I've had hecklers or I've had shows where I've made fun of the room. Like I said, this looks like a place where you have a second-rate quinceañera. And then the owner looked at me and was like, that's funny and true. I went, thank you. Or I've just made fun of the place, and that's always fun. But I don't like attacking audience members.
Dan, how do you deal with hecklers? Because I don't experience it very often. And I'm just kind of waiting for the first time it's really bad.
For me, it's situation to situation.
I mean, I suppose, yeah.
It depends on what, because there are different kinds of hecklers. Sometimes there's a heckler that isn't intentionally heckling. They just like have a situation where you say something funny and it automatic response is to repeat what you said and laugh. Or something to that effect. They're not trying to be an asshole.
Well, I don't really count that a lot of the time.
No, that's fun.
When I say heckling, I think of someone being an asshole on purpose.
The worst.
Well, and like I said, even for that, it's still kind of situation to situation. I try to address it. First, I just try to call them out or whatever, but try to be as polite as possible because that's the thing. Like you got to be careful when you're trying to deal with a heckler because you can be, as a comic, if you're really mean to them, you'll lose your audience.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're being a real big jerk or whatever, and you can put them down comically, but still politely, you win the audience. So you really have to kind of see where your audience is with that heckler too, because if they're annoyed with the person and you shut them down, and even if you're a dick, you're a hero. If they're not necessarily,
if they're like, wow, you didn't need to be that.
Right.
Exactly. Then they're like, oh, you didn't have to quit, you didn't have to be a jerk. And then they don't want, and then you lose your audience, then the rest of the show, and it then happens like in the middle of the show.
Yeah. I'm so meek and so scared that whenever hecklers do come, I freeze up a little bit. I did a show for 5 people, one guy on the right, 4 that were clearly all friends. The guy on the right was clearly drunk and got up and said, hey, can I buy you 4 a beer? And he did. He bought them all a beer and came back and I started doing my set. I do my suicide jokes. Guy walks up on stage, comes up to me for a hug and says, hey man, I have dark thoughts too. And I take a step back, put my hand out and went, that's really great. sit down, shut the hell up. And the 4 people that just got a beer from this guy did not like that. And I had no other, and I just lost the set for the rest of the time.
That's something to
I would have just been like,
I would have rolled with that.
I was too afraid. I was like, I want you to leave me. I don't want you to, you're in my, I'm scared. This is a no-no area. I want you to take a step back, sit down, because I don't know how to address this confrontation.
I would have just asked for a beer too.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'd have been like, when he got up and was like, "You guys want a beer?" I'd have been like, "Yes, I'll take a beer too. As long as you're going that way, bring me one too." Turn the situation into a fun thing, and you don't have to be like, super mean or whatever. And in that situation, his friends probably would have laughed at that,
right.
The people that he was with.
Yeah.
They would have been all into that.
Yeah. Granted, this is also the person that I was telling Haley yesterday. Someone kept asking me, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And for the 4th time, I just purposely avoided them because I was afraid of upsetting them.
Yeah, I feel like though, like with there are some people that are just assholes, and you have to just be an asshole back. But in a lot of hecklers, if you just politely ask them to be quiet, explain what's going on. And actually, one of the coolest things I ever saw, I was doing a show in San Diego. We were on Marine training base, and we were doing a show in the lounge or whatever. And there was like maybe 12 to 14 people there. It was literally one party. They were the audience. Like, it was a bunch of guys and kind of the dates. And through the whole show, they were heckling and being rowdy, and not intentionally. You know how people are assholes, but not intentionally? They're just trying to have fun, but they just don't get that they're being a dick.
Yeah.
They just don't that part just flies over their head. That's how it was, where they didn't realize how much of a dick they were being. They were just trying to have a good time and be involved in the show. And they heckled pretty much everybody. And people addressed them, and basically they made the show about them. Well, then the last comic went up. He went on stage, and he sat down on the stool, and he basically just looked at them all and said, "You guys are the worst audience I've ever seen. You're not doing your job. You're doing a terrible job. Or you're doing a terrible at your job. Your job is to sit here and laugh, clap, and enjoy the show as each of these performers come up. But all you guys have been doing is talking and being asses." And you just straight up put them in their place like a school teacher.
I was going to say, he's about to take away 5 minutes of recess.
Yeah. And
very disappointed in you, class.
Yeah, he basically said, "I'm disappointed in you. You were a terrible audience," and called them out. And then they were like, "Whoa." And then he did his set. It's fucking destroyed.
Jesus.
And they didn't really they didn't really heckle, and they enjoyed the show, and they paid attention, and it was amazing.
I think my least favorite type of heckler that I've encountered is just the too drunk person who keeps bellowing nonsense.
Oh yeah, yep. And those are sometimes there's not much you can do about that.
Yeah, and they're not even trying to be involved. They are just too fucking drunk. You know what I mean?
And that's where you hope that the venue or whoever's running the show asks them to leave. Or talks to them, because there's not much you're going to be able to do in that situation.
Yeah.
I want to add though too, when Trenton did that, the one thing that was very important about that is he didn't go up there and he wasn't an asshole. He wasn't snarky. He wasn't a jerk about it. He was very polite. And he basically just talked to them like a human, like an adult conversation.
Yeah.
And that, I think, and that was what's important about that, because that's why him doing that worked.
Yeah.
He didn't go up there and he wasn't like, "Oh, you guys are a bunch of fucking assholes," and had a bunch of mean attitude and negativity towards them.
Yeah.
He just sat down casually and talked to them like adults.
He didn't attack them.
At the end of the day, they were all adults. Yeah, he didn't attack them. He wasn't aggressive. He was just very polite and just reasoned with them. And it worked.
And polite doesn't mean "Oh, excuse me, you can walk all over me." That's not what polite means.
It isn't?
No, absolutely not.
I think a lot of people hear polite and they think that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not polite. Polite just means, like in that situation, it was talking to them like adults, not being, not attacking them, but pointing out their flaws in a response, in an adult way, essentially. And that's the same like with most hecklers. They don't always realize they're heckling or disturbing the show. And if you can politely point out what they're doing, a lot of times people are like, oh, shit, you're right. I am being an ass. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And then show goes on,
Yeah. So Haley, Dan, I kind of want to ask you guys while jumping into the third part of this podcast, what, if you had to take away anything from this album to kind of help yourselves out, like something you can learn from this album, what would it be? Dan?
Well, then I will never be Robin Williams.
Fair.
Because I do not have that kind of energy. I think the one thing you can take away from it, though, as for like learning, is how doing act outs can really help your show. And that's pretty much what he was doing. I will say one of my favorite parts, though, of this album was when he was doing, I forget he was doing a character or whatever, but he was doing a character in a foreign language.
The Russian bit,
yeah. Yeah, and then he was like, reality. I just said reality. What a concept. Where he did actually said the title of the album. I did enjoy that.
Yeah. Haley, what do you think?
Loosen up on stage more is probably what I take from it. And that doesn't mean like be disorganized, but just have fun. Yeah. Don't be so worried about what you're doing that you don't read. You don't pay attention to what's going on around you or really what you're doing because you're too busy being anxious about yourself or something like that. Dan said it too. Don't take it too seriously. Remember to actually like have a good time while you're doing it.
Yeah. I think my thing is just commit. No matter where the bit's going to go, just commit to it and don't give up. Because I know I've had a history of sometimes dropping a joke halfway through if I don't feel like it's working. Just have the confidence to run through with the joke till it ends and don't waver. And sometimes also just animate. Take stock in how you're standing, how you're moving. And that does a lot to make a show a little bit more presentable. And I guess going into the third bit, I have some quick questions for you, Dan. Like your first one is, what's your favorite joke that you say?
I hate all my jokes.
Fair. No, I get it. I've heard your set. I understand.
Yeah, why would my own jokes be my favorite? That would make me so conceited.
Is there one that you love performing the most? Then?
Yeah, one of my favorite jokes is I have a joke about basically being a sweater dress, and it's just a silly joke and it's funny, and it's true.
I think I remember that one. That's a fun one. What's like the weirdest open mic experience you've ever seen?
Oh my God. I don't know that I can answer that question. I've seen so many. You know how many open mics I've been to?
Like 10?
Yeah, 10 open mics. That was a good guess. Probably that just, in LA one night. But I think I've seen a guy do comedy in a furry costume.
Oh, wow. That's a slam dunk on what I was going to say.
Like a legit fur costume.
Did it look like an expensive one?
Like legit, like expensive. In fact, he always said that
I got the animatronic tail, otherwise I wouldn't feel complete.
Yes, the lady that made the costume was actually paying him to wear it when he performed. So he said, she sponsored him.
What was the persona?
He was also not a very good comedian.
What was it? What did it look like? Tell me what it looked like.
Is it a wolf?
It was like a wolf. It was like a fox type wolf, and it was red. A lot of the reason it didn't work, it could have been funny, but he wasn't doing comedy as the furry, right? He was doing comedy as himself, but he was in a furry costume. So,
was he confident?
No, not enough. He was talking about growing up and his parents and this and that, and it just doesn't work when you're wearing a ridiculous
You're not talking
costume.
About the fact that you're dressed as a fucking fox.
Here's the thing. I'm the reverse of that.
Other than telling people he was getting paid to wear it, that was about the only thing. And that was more him just trying to plug her costume shop or whatever. But in that situation, if he was doing a character like that furry as a stand-up comic and he had a backstory and he was doing jokes about growing up as a furry, something like that, it could have been hilarious. There was potential to do that. And I even told him after the night, I was like, you should you need to be writing about this. He's like, yeah, but I want to talk about, my life. And I'm just like, well, then stop wearing the costume.
Yeah.
Because it's never going to work.
Like I said last time I had this question.
The next frame is just the furry suit walking out onto like fucking Conan or something, just waving.
That furry is a type 5.
Then I officially retire from comedy.
Well, I told Haley about the guy.
You're like, don't say that.
Right,
don't put that out there. Okay, so I mentioned this before. There's this dude around here once in a while who shows up just like in a fucking full black spandex bodysuit. It's just the head and everything. So he looks like a shadow running around.
Oh God!
It's actually frightening. It's frightening. I had a guy in a chicken suit, like not like a furry, but it was like a Halloween chicken suit. And I was on the reverse of this, where he did only chicken jokes, like chicken crossing the road, laying an egg. I didn't care about that. You know what I wanted? Because he had like a fake bottle of scotch, a play cigarette. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Don't even address the chicken suit. Go the entire time. We think we're weird for focusing on the chicken suit. I want to see that. It'll only be funny once, but I wanted that instead of focusing on the chicken suit.
Oh my God.
I did that one time at a show where something similar to that, where it was like the theme was, the show was called Performing Under the Influence. And the whole point is what you did is you did a set sober, and then you got under the influence of something, and then you did another set.
Oh my God, I want to do that.
Fucking fun.
We did, and this was the Christmas show, so he asked us to wear ugly Christmas sweaters. And so
this sounds
first
so
one
fun.
I did, I went up there, did my set, whatever. Then the second, went and got drunk, come back, and what I did is I had painted an ugly Christmas sweater on my body.
Oh.
And so when I went up to my set, I took off my other ugly sweater and just hung it up, and was doing comedy without a shirt.
Like Mitch and Roger, that shit?
That's like some 2002 Playboy Mansion party shit.
Yeah, and I totally did not, address it. Like, that was the whole point. And it was funny, too. At one point, I did finally have to address it, just because I had to stop. Because everybody had their cameras out, and they were trying to take pictures, and finally I was take pictures. But I never made any reference about wearing the sweater. And it was actually pretty funny. I just did my set normally.
And the last question I have for you is, Dan Bublitz, why do you tell jokes?
Well, why do I tell jokes?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you also do one-man plays, you do podcasts, you do a lot of stuff.
What? For me, I guess, I don't know. I love comedy. I mean, I love being on stage. I love feeling the energy. I love making people laugh. That's really what it boils down to.
What I'm hearing is you can't dance.
And I can't dance. That's very true. Have you seen me? We went dancing? How do you know that about me?
I think it's the fact that we've not seen you dance.
Spying on me?
I'm one of those $1 a minute psychics that they advertise late at night on Comedy Central or whatever channel.
Yeah.
Is it Comedy Central?
Comedy Central. Yes. Dan, where can people find you?
They can find me hiding in a mountain far, far, far away from the land of the living. Or they can just go to social media, and I'm at Dan Bublitz Jr. And my last name is spelled Bublitz, not Boob like it's thou. At Dan Bublitz Jr., Instagram, Twitter. But the best place you can probably reach me at is through my website, danbublitz.com.
Do you have any other projects that you work on?
I've got some stuff out there. I've got my one-man show. It was supposed to be a love story. It's a show that features both my stand-up comedy, some of my stand-up comedy, and my poetry. It's a story about a relationship that I was in that went south, and that's available on Amazon Prime to watch. It's also available as an audio CD on wherever you find the audio these days, whether it be Apple Music, Google Music, Spotify, Pandora. Best way is to purchase it directly from my website. You can find it there. It's available for purchase, for download. And then I've got live shows, which are all on my website, danbublitz.com.
And you also host an awesome podcast called The Art of Bombing.
Yeah. And then I have so many projects. Yeah. And then I have the podcast, The Art of Bombing podcast.
Yeah.
And then I'm working on, and I haven't decided on a launch date, but I'm working on another podcast, kind of a true crime podcast called The Red Prairie Podcast.
Hell yeah, man. I can't wait to hear that because Art of Bombing is a great podcast. Can't wait to listen to this new one.
Yeah, well, this will be very not The Art of Bombing.
Figured, yeah, no.
It bombed, and then it'll be a story for The Art of Bombing.
That'll be a fun one to listen to if that ever happens. But Dan,
too meta.
You can find me at Red Shoes Plum on Twitter, and I think that's the only thing I use. And I do this podcast. Haley?
Oh, I'm good.
That's fair. I was like,
She's like, don't follow me.
Right.
I don't want. All this is gonna do is get creepy men to follow me, hoping that I'll do something with boobs.
Oh.
And we don't do that. See what I did there? I called it back. Bam!
I'm so proud of you, Dan. So proud of you. Growing up right before our eyes. Dan, Haley, it's been a pleasure. And this has been Running the Light. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And it's not a set. It's not a comedy. It's just fun. Get out of your headspace. It's just fun.